Hello learners and welcome to your Natural Sciences lesson. So today we're going to be doing practice questions that are based on acid-base reactions. So let's start. The first question that we are given is, we are supposed to fill in the missing words in these sentences and then we need to write the word on the line below. So first question is, to know if something is an acid or a base, we measure it. So now what do we do in order for, if we want to check if whether a substance is an acid or a base, what do? We are going to measure that substance pH. So we measure its pH. So we measure the pH. Remember, it's small letter p and capital letter H. P for potential and then H for hydrogen. Remember that all acids have a hydrogen within them. Now question B, the name of a laboratory acid with the formula H2SO4 is. So this particular substance is a strong one of the strong acids, and its name is sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid. And then its chemical formula, it is H2SO4. Now question C is asking that the formula of the laboratory acid named hydrochloric acid is. So initially we were given the formula and they wanted us to write the name. And now we are given the name and they want us to write the formula of this particular substance. So hydrochloric acid, that's now a combination or a reaction between hydrogen and chlorine. So it's HCl. It's capital letter H, capital letter C, but small letter L. Remember, hydrogen and chlorine, they react together to form HCl, which is hydrochloric acid, and that is an example of also a strong acid. Now, question D, when a metal oxide reacts with something, a salt and water will be formed. So, metal oxide, that is reacting with something, salt and water will be formed. We do know that a reaction between an acid plus a base is always going to produce salt plus water. So the metal oxide that they are referring to, that is a base. So that means when this base reacts with an acid, so a salt and water will be formed, as we can see from the general acid-base reaction equation. Acid plus base reacts to form water and salt. When a metal hydroxide reacts with an acid, a salt and something will be formed. So we need to know that the hydroxide has OH, so metal hydroxide has an OH within itself. So the metal could be any element from group 1 or group 2 elements. So that's going to be denoted with M. So the reaction is going to be M for metal, hydroxide OH, plus acid. This is going to react to form salt and something. Now remember that the OH is going to be given off from the base, and then because all the acids have an H within themselves, where the H is going to be given off from the acid to react with the OH to form the H2O. So that means a salt and water will be formed. Now, next question. Take that in for a bit. So we are asked that, are these statements true or false? Question 1, weak acids like vinegar, they taste sweet. So we do know that the properties of acids, that all acids, they taste sour, and all bases, they taste bitter. So therefore, if vinegar is an acid, by definition, it can't taste sweet. It needs to taste sour. So therefore, this statement is false because the properties of acids tell us that acids taste sour. And because this is an acid, it needs to taste sour as well. So it can be sweet. Now question 2, strong acids are corrosive and can eat away metal and flesh. So strong acids are corrosive and can also eat away metal and flesh. We do know that acids can be corrosive, same as bases can be corrosive as well. So therefore, this statement is true because regardless of the strength of an acid, they can be corrosive. And also regardless of the strength of the base, they can still be corrosive. So therefore, this statement is true. This statement is true. Now question 3. Acids turn blue litmus paper blue. So remember that a litmus paper, it is an example of an indicator that determines if whether a substance is basic or acidic. So acid are going to turn a blue litmus paper red according to the properties of the acid. Or if we're dipping a blue litmus paper onto an acid, that litmus paper will turn red, from blue to red. So therefore, this statement is false, because it doesn't turn a blue litmus paper blue, it turns it red. Now question 4, acids have a pH of more than 7. Now when we're picturing our pH scale with a 7 in the middle there, 0, and then all the way to 14. We know that if a substance has a pH that is less than 7, it is going to be acidic. And if a substance has a pH that is greater than 7, it is going to be basic. But if a substance has a pH that is 7, then that substance is neutral. So therefore, acids have a pH of more than 7. That is false, because acids have a pH that is less than 7 as per the pH scale. So this statement is false. And then the last one given to us says that acids can be neutralized with bases. We do know that when we are having a reaction between an acid and a base, that entire reaction is regarded or is referred to as a neutralization reaction. So therefore, acids can be neutralized with bases. Same, the converse is true, that we can neutralize a base with an acid. So therefore, this statement is true. There we go. Now, next one. We are given that we need to write down the general equation for the neutralization reaction between acids and bases. We know that whenever we are reacting an acid and a base, the product will always be salt and water. So therefore, a general equation will then be acid plus base reacts to form salt and water. That's our general equation for the neutralization reaction between an acid and a base. Now the next question is asking us that, it is telling us that the first part of the name of a salt comes from the base. Very important to note. So the first part of the name of a salt comes from a base, which is usually a metal. Then the second part comes from the acid. So with that in mind, we need to complete each of the following neutralization reactions with the salt produced from the list. So we do know that this is a neutralization reaction, so therefore they just want us to write the name of the salt which is going to be produced from the addition, in this case, of hydrochloric acid plus magnesium hydroxide. We are told the first name or the first part of the name comes from the base. So our base is our magnesium hydroxide, and then our acid is going to be our hydrochloric acid. So then that means the salt produced must start with magnesium. So that means now the salt produced here will be our magnesium chloride. Magnesium chloride. So it starts with the magnesium and then to add our chloride at the end there to form magnesium chloride. And remember, we are still going to have water because it's a neutralization reaction. Then question B, sulfuric acid plus sodium hydroxide. So obviously starting from a base and then going to the acid. So the base is going to be sodium. So in the list that you are given here, we have sodium sulfate and we have sodium chloride. We do know that this is a sulfuric acid, so that means the acid, the first part of the acid is going to be sulfate, which then tells us that the reaction is going to give us sodium sulfate, because we do not have chlorine in this reaction, so it's just going to be sodium sulfate as our product, and also plus water there at the end. Then question C, again still in keeping with the very same instruction given to us, that the first part of the name comes from the base, and then the last part comes from an acid. So we have nitric acid plus calcium hydroxide. So calcium is the first part of the name, calcium, and then the last part is going to be coming from the acid, the nitric acid. So therefore that gives us a nitrate. So it's going to be calcium nitrate. And then question D, sulfuric acid and calcium carbonate. Again, the first part comes from calcium, and then the last part comes from the sulfuric acid. So we're going to have calcium. Remember that calcium is what we find in our bones. It makes our bones very strong, our bones and teeth to be very strong. So it's going to be calcium sulfate. We have it there. And then the last question given to us is hydrochloric acid plus sodium hydroxide. So this is a very famous one. So this is our HCl reacting with NaCl to form something else. So what does it form? It's going to be forming, starting with the sodium, because it starts from the base. And then this is only now where we have a chlorine. So therefore it's going to be our sodium chloride. The salt produced here is going to be our sodium chloride. So what's important for us to take note of is that the name of the salt that is being produced, the first part comes from the base and the second part comes from the acid. And the first part is usually a metal, and that is going to give us the prefix, or rather the first part of the name. And then the suffix or the ending of the name is going to be coming from the acid. So before we continue to our next part of the questions, let's go quickly for an ad break, and I will see you just after this.